was kind of created by the church. Kinda. We're all one. We're going to go back to the one. Stay in line. Hypnosis. We are one. We are one. We are one. We're going back to one. It sounded really good. And you know who really picked it up was the New Thought people in the late 1800s and really picked up some momentum in the early 1960s. We're all one because I'm not... We're all one because I'm not worthy to be sovereign. I'm not worthy to be sovereign. I'm not worthy of my own divinity. I've got to go back in oneness. Now, how boring is that? That's a shit-bad joke if God was really that way. I'm sorry, Edith. Edith looked at me like, when are you going to stop swearing? Or was that admiration? Absolutely, yeah. So there's this, that would be a really bad joke if you die and then, you see the white light, it carries you off into oneness. And you'd be like, all that work, I exist, I am that I am. No, I'm just part of this big milk bowl with everybody else. All that work went for naught. All that trying to find my identity. I'd rather go back to the world of being human and lost in this oneness. This is so boring. I mean, there's no identity in this great big oneness. I didn't even like that person over there that's in the oneness, and now they're here too. Everybody gets in. Oh, God. If only I could get out of the oneness. I'd go back to earth and I'd talk to everybody. I'd scream, don't go. The oneness sucks. There's no sensuality in it. It's just boring as crap. It's like being in milk all the time. Warm milk, skim milk. It's never any different. It's always the same. Oh my God, I had it so good on earth. Why didn't I just appreciate it? I mean, why didn't I appreciate my sovereignty, my unique being? And then you probably say to yourself, you know, I get it now. I get it. Actually, the church kind of was getting there, but they took it down the wrong path, the path of their power. What was really meant by this statement is I come into my own oneness. I got all these aspects flying around out there, all these past lives who are, by the way, counting on you right now to do it in this lifetime, so they're not floating around. I got all these parts and pieces. They're disconnected, and they will always be facets. But it was about bringing those into my oneness, the I am that I am. Many, many facets of the crystal that I am, but a oneness with myself. Oh my gosh, they missed the point. I had to go back to earth and teach. I am the oneness. I am the one. And bring all of myself back together, divine and human and master and student and all my past lifetimes and all of the potentials. They're mine. They're mine. It's me. Without any further words, let's just Merab this. Merab is a verb. It means to shift consciousness. Like my skirt?
A lot.
So it's really my point of the day. Everything else was just fun. The oneness is you. It always was. It's the sovereign being that you are. You are not beholden to any being whatsoever. There is no dark entity who could ever, ever, ever take away your consciousness, your I am. Some of you hold back from this wing ceiling. You hold back because you're afraid that if you go out there, that you're going to be vulnerable to forces that are stronger than you. It's more easy down here. There's some demons out there, some bad stuff out there. When you get over this whole thing that power is real, because they use power, the dark side uses power to deceive. There is no power. You just take a deep breath and go, oh, there is no power. And that's when you start really allowing the wings of your dreams to bring you into realization. But we're here right now for oneness. Just feel that for a moment, the I am, I exist oneness. Just take a good deep breath, your oneness. Totally sovereign. Totally sovereign. Another way to look at it is you're self-contained. There's nothing, including energy, that you need outside of oneness, your oneness. Every aspect, every facet of yourself, every past life, every personality trait in this lifetime is part of that oneness. They've been begging to come home. They've been begging you to come back into the sovereign oneness that you are. I bring up oneness at the end of our transhuman series because it's really about really letting every part and piece, every aspect and every facet know that it's time now. No more dallying around. No more hanging out in the periphery of the I am. No more taunting you, mocking you, some of the aspects do. You've got so many parts of yourself, of the oneness, that simply want to come back. They want to go on this ride with you. You can't do it if they're all dissociated, disconnected. So we sit here in a gathering like this at the end of Transhuman before we really start soaring in our next series and simply feel into the oneness. That's all you have to do is just feel into the I am oneness of yourself. And when you do, it takes all those parts and pieces, even if you think they're broken, wounded, hurt, traumatized, it brings back the masculine and the feminine. It brings back the good and the bad, the light and the dark. And it puts you kind of in, I see it as such a kind of a huge orb, multi-faceted orb. It brings everything back to that orb, a glowing, shimmering shape that you are, with millions and millions of facets, different edges to it. When you back way far away to observe, it's like it's just one huge shimmering ball of light. When you get up really close, it's millions of perfect facets. Millions and millions of edges, you could say, facets on this orb, everyone perfect. You know, there are some of these facets, there's almost like fragments of kind of like crystals, glass, that were floating around outside of this orb, tentative, not sure they wanted to come into it, come back home. Like space debris, like stuff, the rings of Saturn, stuff just in orbit around it. But when we take a deep breath here and allow, well, I'll stop talking and just let you have that experience. When you take a deep breath, let yourself feel what happens with all that debris that was floating around outside of the orb. good deep breath. Just all about allowing. Remember, the mind can't put all these pieces together. The human self is not responsible for enlightenment. It's just about allowing. But when you sense into this beautiful orb, the oneness of you, your sovereignty, it's like calling all the parts and pieces back home. This is transhumanism, what I call transhumanism. This is the coming back to self. This is the metamorphosis from all the parts and pieces that were laying all over the cosmos, that were laying all over time and space. Fragments of yourself. And the real transhumanism is allowing these all to come back together. Remember, you can't mentally put them back. You can simply allow. Had a lot of struggles with what you call aspects or parts of yourself. They're the reason for a lot of doubts. They're the reason for a lot of dreams being diminished, held back. Now we just take a deep breath into the oneness, the sovereignty of you. Some of the very early teachings of the Essenes, the Gnostics, they talked about oneness, not about oneness in all of the universe. They were talking about the oneness of the self, and it got distorted, it got misunderstood. How easy it is to hypnotize people when you talk about oneness. 1984-ish, kind of big brother. But in these early teachings, which we'll talk about in some of our shouds and definitely in Kihak, I'm going to bring some of them back up. These early teachings were about the true nature of sovereignty, oneness of the being, the integrated being. Oneness within yourself. And while it may seem so logical, I guess, so natural, there's a huge resistance to it. It means accepting and allowing yourself. Going beyond the doubts. Going crazy, I guess you would say. But what is crazy? Let's take a deep breath in our form of transhumanism. An evolution of body, mind, and spirit into a body of consciousness. An evolution going beyond ancestral biology. A natural evolution beyond the fears of the mind. Our form of transhumanism is not to work on these things, not to put the human in the way of a natural process of enlightenment, but for the human to be a participant and to allow with their divine, with their oneness, for the human to realize that they're not responsible for their realization. They're just being asked to allow and experience. Where there's no effort, or it's simply allowing, trusting. Our form of transhumanism is knowing that the body, biology, can absolutely heal itself without any outside interference, other than maybe a walk in nature or sitting in a warm bathtub. Our form of transhumanism is not to collect and store all the data that we possibly can, like the human computers do, but to realize we need to store nothing, nothing. We don't have to store data, facts, and figures, because there's this thing called the knowingness. It's like your personal oneness cloud. It's your own knowingness, and it doesn't store data like the mind does. It doesn't remember like the mind does, but the knowingness just knows. And it doesn't know until it needs to know. That's the beauty of it. It's not a storage place. Your knowingness, your nost. The best way to put it is knowingness operates outside of time and space, therefore doesn't have to be linear, doesn't record dates. If there's something you need to know that occurred in the past, it goes to the past. It doesn't store it, it's just there. It's an I am here, it's a consciousness. The human mind no longer needs to store memories and information and have its secret vaults where it stores your identity, imprint. We go beyond all of that. That's our transhumanism. We don't need big computers embedded in our being. We simply go to knowingness. It's always there. Needs no energy whatsoever. This thing called knowingness. It's always there. That's our transhumanism, our oneness. Where will humans go with technology? A lot of potential different directions. I'll keep you posted about it, but I'm not so drawn to spending a lot of time on that. I'd rather talk to you about your transhumanism. I ask, while we're in this Merab, I ask you to feel one thing. I ask you to feel that 7 years, a commitment. Once there is the realization to stay embodied for at least 7 years, it's a commitment to yourself. And it may be longer, it might be much longer, but to stay, not to fly out of the body, not to leave the planet, but to stay. I invite you to feel into that. I would say that there's a joy in that feeling, a true joy.